Hello, Stephanie from Hillside Stitches here, and today I'm going to show you how to make this faux piped binding. You need to choose two fabrics, a main fabric and a pop of color. For the main, I am going to be using this black and white stripes, and I will be cutting 1.5 inch strips of it. And for my pop of color, I'm using Blossom. This will need to be 1 3/4 inch. When you cut your pop of fabric, always make sure that it has 1/4 inch more than your main. So again, the main needs to be cut at 1.5 inch strips, and the pop needs to be cut at 1 3/4. This will make your binding 2 3/4 inches once it's done, and I find this works best for minky and flannel, so you can shorten these measurements by 1/8 or 1/4 inch if you like your binding skinnier. What I'm doing right now is just sewing each set of fabric end to end. First my black and white stripes, and then now my pop of color, my blossom fabric. I'm just sewing to make one long strip on each set of fabric. Now I'm taking both of these very long strips and sewing them right sides together. At your pressing table, we are going to press towards the smaller or the main color fabric. Flip over your fabric once it's all pressed, and with the wrong sides together, press it so there's a nice crisp seam on the edge and your open edges are touching each other. So again, we wanted to press towards the smaller fabric because as you can see here, we only have about 1/8 inch showing of our pop of fabric. And if you had pressed towards your larger piece of fabric, you'd have extra fabric in this fold, and it'll make stitching through all of the layers super difficult. Take your long binding over to your sewing machine, and we are going to sew it onto the back of your quilt first. Now you want to make sure that the pop of fabric is facing up and your main fabric is actually facing down. I like to start near one corner and go all the way around, and I always miter my corners when I do binding. And an easy way to do that is to approach slowly. Stop about 1/4 inch away from your edge. Lift your presser foot, turn your quilt, and then take a couple back stitches so that you're off of it. Then you're going to fold your binding at a 45-degree angle and then fold it back down, finger creasing it. Starting on the very edge, go ahead and just keep stitching. Again, you're going to stop about 1/4 inch away. Lift your presser foot, turn your quilt, and then back stitch until you're all the way off of both the quilt and the binding. Fold your binding up by a 45-degree angle, crease, and then fold it back down. Again, I like to finger press. Then you're going to slide that back under your foot and then continue sewing. Once you've got your binding attached all the way around, you are going to flip your quilt over and pull that binding up and over nice and taut. We're going to stitch in the ditch between our pop and our main fabric, and once we get towards a corner, it's going to be the same thing. Approach slowly, pull it nice and tight, fold it over at a 45-degree angle so you have that nice corner here. And then once we get close to it, I am going to take a couple back stitches. Otherwise, I only have one single piece of thread holding this binding corner together. So lift your presser foot, turn 90 degrees, same thing, take a stitch, take a couple back stitches, and then just continue on your way, sewing as close to that main fabric as you can. Ta-da! We've got this wonderful, subtle in this case, faux piped binding. Thanks for joining me and happy sewing!